Rachel, I'd like you to meet Sean Porter. Her mom's hands tightened around her mug of coffee. He's been working at the drilling site. Rachel slipped off her shoes and unzipped her jacket. Mom turned to the boy who sat at the claw-footed kitchen table with her. And this is his brother, Paul. Sean nodded in her direction, and Paul smiled, then settled his gaze on his folded hands. Nice to meet you. She spared each of them a glance, then stepped around her dad, intent on scooting down the hall to her bedroom. I have to get ready for school. She had barely cleared her dad's big feet when Mom's words stopped her dead in her tracks. Wait a minute, Rachel. Paul is going to school with you. In fact, he'll stay with us for several months while Sean is working here. She hoped they didn't notice her slack-jawed reaction. He's staying with us? Rachel's dad gathered his iPad and lunchbox and backed toward the door. He had taken a position as a middle manager at a logistics warehouse last year, and upper management didn't tolerate lateness. I'm sorry we're springing this on you when you've got to get ready for school, Dad said. But Paul can explain it to you on your way to the bus stop. Things happen kind of fast, but we're glad to have him here. He gave her Mom a quick kiss, then slipped out the door. Mom mustered an enthusiastic smile, but Rachel detected a little pleading in her eyes. Since no time remained for either explanations or oatmeal, Rachel excused herself for the second time and dashed to her room. The peaceful brain fog she had enjoyed during her walk had lifted, and her mind raced again as she peeled off her clothes and pulled her white blouse and plaid uniform skirt from the closet. She kept coming back to the same questions. Why would my parents put up some stranger's younger brother in our house? Where were their parents? By the time she slipped on her scuffed brown Mary Janes, she couldn't wait to get out the door and interrogate Paul. Unfortunately, Paul seemed rather tight-lipped. He was still intent on his hands, the table, and any other inanimate object that kept him from making eye contact with her. Sean had left. Down to the drilling site, she presumed, and she heard her mom still trying to drag James out of bed. She grabbed her lunch and backpack and turned to Paul, ready to go. We'd better get moving if we're going to catch the bus. Without a word, Paul got up, grabbed his backpack, and traipsed toward the door. We're leaving, Mom, she called down the hallway before stepping past Paul, who held the door for her. At least he had decent manners. So, Paul, what are you doing here? As soon as the words left her mouth, she cringed, wishing she'd found a more delicate way to ask. If only her parents had given her a clue as to what was going on. Maybe there hadn't been time to discuss it, but bringing a stranger into your home was a pretty big deal. Finally, Paul spoke, dispelling her niggling fear that he was mute. It's only for a few months. Dad's in the army in Afghanistan, and my brother had to move here for work, so I had to come along. He jerked his backpack higher onto his shoulder and dug his bare hands into his jacket pockets. But why are you here? I mean, at my house. Paul slowed his pace and Rachel matched it. In a nutshell, I'm a liability, at least according to the corporate lawyer. But they'll only reimburse Sean if he stays at the hotel. He was gonna quit, then the foreman said to talk to your dad. He glanced at her. If he thought she knew the rest, he was dead wrong. So, Sean asked your parents about some place for me to stay, and they said I could stay with them. With you. Oh. It was kind of a strange setup all around. Shouldn't he be with his brother? And he hadn't mentioned his mother, so Rachel presumed she wasn't in the picture. At least one thing was clear. If his dad was in the army, that explained why her dad was willing to open up their home. Her dad wasn't a veteran, but almost all of his friends were, or had been, and he had a tremendous respect for the military. Well, the guest house is pretty neat, so I think you'll be comfortable there. Yeah, I appreciate it, but to be honest, this is kind of messed up. I should be used to moving from place to place by now, but somehow it's always tough. He boosted his backpack on his shoulder. My mom passed away when I was little, and my dad's career has had us all over the country. It's been hard for him. I try to fit in, get along, and keep my nose clean. Sean's had a lot of extra responsibilities, but he's good about looking out for me. I'm sorry. About your mom, I mean. What could she say? His life sounded like the polar opposite of her stable, familiar, intact family life.